Syria has been a refuge for Hezbollah leaders and their families when they felt threatened and they feel threatened by Israel, as was the case in the war in 2006. And this refuge will be denied them, whoever will come to power there. There are already a number of scenarios about what a new political order in Syria would entail for the tripartite axis. And you have a spectrum of opinions. I tend to endorse the perspective which says that irrespective of the makeup of the new Syrian regime, absent a peace agreement between Syria and Israel, this new Syrian regime will have to rely on Hezbollah's military arsenal as an important component of its deterrence strategy. And so there is no doubt that Assad's demise would weaken Hezbollah's deterrence strategy, tie its hands in any future war with Israel, but still Hezbollah is here to stay as a political representative of the largest of Lebanon's communities. Now, the third level, which is the spillover in Lebanon, or the ripple effects in Lebanon, again, the scenario that is the most scary right now for Hezbollah is the civil war in Syria and its potential spillover into Lebanon, especially in the northern part of Lebanon, thus reigniting the Sunni-Shia sectarian tensions in Lebanon that have been simmering since the 2008 events. What this will entail in the short to medium term is to force Hezbollah to devote more of its resources to the domestic front, a front which they have always relied on its cohesiveness thanks to the Syrian leadership role in managing the differences between the different political parties in the country. In short, in the event of Assad's demise, there is no doubt that Hezbollah will be weakened, and in my opinion, seriously weakened, but it won't collapse. Now, the second question is, what are their domestic strategies or priorities in Lebanon? Now, there has been, again, speculation in the press as to whether Hezbollah would escalate tensions along the southern border with Israel in an attempt to focus public attention on the struggle against Israel and deflect it away from the Syrian regime, draconian repressive measures in Syria. To date, all public statements by Hezbollah officials do not support this theory. And my hypothesis, in fact, is that Hezbollah is least likely to engage in this because the cost of miscalculation, as was the case in 2006, are much higher today, given all the uncertainties surrounding them in the region, given the uprising in the Arab world, as well as the development in Syria, and the uncertainty regarding where Syria is heading. So what is their domestic priority right now? Mohammed Ra'ad, the leader of Hezbollah's parliamentary bloc, said on more than one occasion that Hezbollah's objective is to keep the Mikati cabinet in place until the next parliamentary election, scheduled for 2013. Hezbollah is now the principal orchestrator of this governing coalition. It has so far shown inability at holding this coalition together, despite the many internal divisions besetting it. The most recent evidence is, for those who follow Lebanon closely, is how Hezbollah managed to bring to a successful resolution the dispute among its partners in this governing coalition over the new electricity sector law by working behind the scenes to moderate Aoun demands and try to find common grounds between the Aoun camp and the Mikati, Jumblat, Berri camp on the other side. Now, their ability at keeping this fragile coalition together is now facing a serious test with a decision over Lebanon paying its share of the STL funding, the Special Tribunal for Lebanon. In last Thursday edition of the Lebanese daily Al-Akhbar, Nkula Nassif, for those of you who follow also the Lebanese press, had a very well-informed and spot-on analysis of Hezbollah's position on this issue. In summary, what Nicola Nassif said in his article is that Hezbollah now is trying to reconcile between two competing, what appears on the surface to be mutually exclusive objectives. On one hand, maintaining its non-negotiable opposition to Lebanon paying its share of the STL funding, while maintaining the unity of the government, a government that is led by Mikati, who has pledged his support for the funding in so many different international fora. Now, given Hezbollah's position to date on the STL, having framed it as part of an ongoing battle or war with Israel, between Hezbollah and Israel and the West and the United States, their position on the STL funding is expected and is not surprising. True to form, Hezbollah has yet to officially announce their position on the STL funding. So far, they have let their ally Michel Aoun take the lead in making the case against the funding. And it's interesting, the case that's being made. The case that's being made is as follows: linking the funding to the constitutionality of the court. So in a way, as you well know, the court was established based on an agreement between the government of Lebanon and the UN Security Council. But that agreement at the time was not ratified by the Lebanese parliament. So the people in Hezbollah's orbit, as well as their allies, now claim that because of that, the tribunal itself is unconstitutional based on Lebanese law. And so paying Lebanon's share of the STL budget should not be considered as one of the country's international obligations, because, there is an international obligation to an institute that is legal, but in this case, it's not legal. And so where Hezbollah will be standing on this, given the wall of secrecy that surrounds their deliberation, the decision eventually inside Hezbollah will be made within the Shura Council. And let me just, provide some ideas about what, in my opinion, based on an analysis of a statement done by their official, of what's driving their thinking. First is that I think that all the articles that have been said about their non-negotiable opposition to the funding are definitely true. However, how they are going to bring that to bear is what is at issue. What they are trying to do, if we use a boxing metaphor, if there is a contest between Hezbollah and the STL right now, what they are trying to do is not to win it through a total knockout or a technical knockout. They are not trying to win it by points. They are trying to win it by disqualifying the opponent for breaking the rule. And that's right now their strategy. And they believe by doing that, they provide Mikati a way out, a constitutional way out. So in one hand, he will say, I led a good fight to get the funding through. But on the other hand, after all, this agreement has not been ratified by the parliament, and we have to go back to the parliament and strike a new agreement. So this is how, in my opinion, they are going to be moving forward on the tribunal. Part also of their thinking on this is their calculation of the cost of non-compliance with the resolution UNSCR 1757, which established the STL. Their estimates of the cost of non-compliance are to be manageable, that these costs will be manageable. Any non-compliance action and or sanctions by the Security Council would require a new separate United Nations Security Council resolution. So they are betting that if this come to bear, a Russian or a Chinese veto might be in the offing. And so that leaves the door open for unilateral sanctions by the United States and the European Union. Now, given all that's going on in the Arab region, whether either side is willing to move forward with these sanctions is debatable, and they are betting that this is not going to be the case. Or if they are going to do that, it's not going to be that much damaging to Lebanon. Thirdly, there is also an estimation that if they were to win that contest with the STL, there will not be a pushback inside Lebanon. Their campaign, which they have organized and led extremely successfully to delegitimize the STL, has worked. It has sowed enough serious doubt in enough Lebanese circles about the impartiality of the STL.